When earth-encircling Poseidon heard this, he went into battle amid the clash of spears, and came to the place where Achilles and Aeneas were. Forthwith he shed a darkness before the eyes of the son of Peleus, drew the bronze-headed ashen spear from the shield of Aeneas, and laid it at the feet of Achilles. Then he lifted Aeneas on high from off the earth and hurried him away. Over the heads of many bands of warriors, both horse and foot, did he soar as the gods' hand sped him till he came to the very fringe of the battle, where the Cauconians were arming themselves for fight. Poseidon, shaker of the earth, then came near to him and said, Aeneas, what god has egged you on to this folly in fighting the son of Peleus, who is both a mightier man of valor and more beloved of heaven than you are? Give way before him whensoever you meet him, lest you go down to the house of Hades, even though fate would have it otherwise. When Achilles is dead, you may then fight among the foremost and daunted, for none other of the Phrygians shall slay you. The god left him when he had given him his instructions, and at once removed the darkness from before the eyes of Achilles, who opened them wide indeed, and said in great anger, Alas, what marvel am I now beholding? Here is my spear upon the ground, but I see not him whom I meant to kill when I hurled it. Of a truth, Aeneas also must be under heaven's protection, although I had thought his boasting was idle. Let him go hang. He will be in no mood to fight me further, seeing how narrowly he has missed being killed. I will now give my orders to the Danaans, and attack some other of the Trojans. He sprang forward along the line, and cheered his men on as he did so. Let not the Trojans, he cried, keep you at arm's length, Phrygians, but go for them and fight them man for man. However valiant I may be, I do not give chase to so many and fight all of them. Even Ares, who is an immortal, or Athena, would shrink from flinging himself into the jaws of such a fight and laying about him. Nevertheless, so far as in me lies, I will show no slackness of hand or foot, nor want of endurance, not even for a moment, when I utterly break their ranks, and woe to the Trojan who shall venture within reach of my spear. Thus did he exhort them. Meanwhile, Hector called upon the Trojans, and declared that he would fight Achilles. Be not afraid, proud Trojans, said he, to face the son of Peleus. I could fight the gods myself, if the battle were one of words only, but they would be more than a match for me, if he had to use our spears. Even so, the deed of Achilles will fall somewhat short of his word. He will do in part, and the other part he will clip short. I will go up against him, though his hands be as fire, though his hands be fire, and his strength iron. Thus urged, the Trojans lifted up their spears against the Phrygians, and raised the cry of battle as they flung themselves into the midst of their ranks. But Phoebus Apollo came up to Hector, and said, Hector, on no account must you challenge Achilles to single combat. Keep a lookout for him while you are under cover of the others and away from the thick of the fight. Otherwise he will either hit you with a spear, or cut you down at close quarters. Thus he spoke, and Hector drew back within the crowd, for he was afraid when he heard what the god had said to him. Achilles then sprang upon the Trojans with a terrible cry, clothed in valor as with a garment. First he killed Aphaetion, son of Otrenites, a leader of much people, whom an Aid, nymph, had borne to Otrenites, wasted their cities in the land of Hyde, under the snowy heights of Mount Timoas. Achilles struck him full on the head as he was coming on towards him, and split it clean in two, whereon he fell heavily to the ground, and Achilles vaunted over him, saying, Be below, son of Otrenites, mighty hero, your death is here, but your lineage is on the Gygaean lake, where your father's estate lies by Iliad, rich in fish, and the eddying waters of Hermus. Thus did he vaunt, the darkness closed the eyes of the other. The chariots of the Phrygians cut him up, as their wheels passed over him. In the front of the battle after him, Achilles killed Demoleon, a valiant man of war, and sent Anator. He struck him on the temple through his bronze-cheeked helmet. The helmet did not stay the spear, but it went right on, crushing the bone so that the brain inside was shed in all directions, and his loss of fighting was ended. Then he struck Hippodamas in the midriff, as he was springing down from his chariot in front of him, trying to escape. He breathed his last, bellowing like a bull bellows when the young men are dragging him to offer him in sacrifice to the king of Hellas, and the heart of the earth-shaker is glad. Even so did he bellow as he lay dying. Achilles then went in pursuit of Polydorus, son of Priam, whom his father had always forbidden to fight because he was the youngest of his sons, the one he loved best and the fastest runner. He, in his folly and showing off the fleetness of his feet, was rushing about among the front ranks until he lost his life before Achilles struck him in the middle of the back as he was darting past him. He struck him just as the golden fastenings of his belt, where the two pieces of the double breastplate overlapped. The point of the spear pierced him through and came out by the navel, whereon he fell groaning onto his knees, and a cloud of darkness overshadowed him as he sank holding his entrails in the hands. When Hector saw his brother Polydorus with his entrails in his hands and sinking down upon the ground, a mist came over his eyes, and he could not bear to keep longer at a distance. He therefore poised his spear and darted towards Achilles like a flaming fire. When Achilles saw him, bounded forward and vaunted, saying, This is he that he was wounded my heart most deeply, and was slain, my beloved comrade. Not for long shall we two quail before one another on the highways of war. He looked fiercely on Hector and said, Draw near that you may meet your doom the sooner. Hector feared him not, and answered, Son of Peleus, think not that your words can scare me, as though I were a child. I too, if I will, can brag and talk unseemly. I know that you are a mighty warrior, mightier by far than I. Nevertheless, the issue lies in the lap of the heaven, whether I, worse man though I be, may not slay you with my spear, for this too has been found keen ere now. He hurled his spear as he spoke, but Athena breathed upon it, and though she breathed but very little, she turned it back from going towards Achilles, so that it returned to Hector and lay at his feet in front of him. Achilles then sprang fiercely on him, with a loud cry, bent on killing him, but Apollo caught him up easily as a god can, and hid him in thick darkness. Thrice did Achilles spring towards him, spear in hand, and thrice did he waste his blow upon the air. When he rushed forward for the fourth time, as though he were a god, he shouted aloud, saying, How at this time, too, you have escaped death, but of a truth, they came exceedingly near you. Phoebus Apollo, to whom it seems you pray before you go into battle, has again saved you. But if I too have any friend among the gods, I will surely make an end of you when I come across you at some other time. Now, however, I will pursue and overtake other Trojans. On this he struck Drypylus with his spear without the middle of his neck, and he fell headlong at his feet. There he let him lie, stated Demouchus, son of Philetor, a man both brave and of great stature, by hitting him on the knee with a spear. Then he smote him with his sword and killed him. After this he sprang on Laogonus and Dardanus, sons of Aias, and threw them from their chariot, the one with a blow from a thrown spear, while the other he cut down in hand-to-hand fight. There also Tros, the son of Alistor. He came up to Achilles and clasped his hands in the hope that he would spare him and not kill him, but let him go because they were both of the same age. Fool he might have known that he should not prevail with him, for the man was in no mood for pity or forbearance, but was in grim earnest. Therefore, when Cos made hold of these knees and sought a hearing for his prayers, Achilles drove his sword into his liver, and the liver came rolling out while his bosom was all covered with black blood, and well from the wound. Thus did death close his eyes as he lay lifeless. Achilles then went up to Mollius and struck him on the ear with a spear, and the bronze spearhead came right out the other ear. He also struck Echeclus, son of Agenor, on the head with his sword, which became warm with the blood, while death's stern face closed the eyes of Echeclus. Next in order, the bronze point of his spear wounded Deucalion in the forearm, where the sinews of the elbow are united, whereon he awaited Achilles onset, with his arm hanging down and death staring him in the face. Achilles cut his head off with a blow from his sword, and flung it helmet and all away from him, and the marrow came oozing out of his backbone. As he lay, he then went in pursuit of Remus, the noble son of Paris, who had come from fertile Thrace, and struck him through the middle with a spear which fixed itself in his belly, so that it fell headlong from his chariot. He also speared Arethus, squire to Remus, in the back as he was turning his horse in flight, and thrust him from his chariot, while the horses were struck with panic. As a fire raging in some mountain glen after long drought, and the dense forest is in a blaze, while the wind carries great tongues of fire in every direction, even so fiercely did Achilles rage, wielding his spear as though he were a god, and giving chase at those whom he would slay, till the dark earth ran with blood, or as one who yokes proud oxen, that they may tread barely in the threshing floor, and soon bruised, small under the fleet of the lowing cattle. Even so did the horse of Achilles tramp on the shields and the bodies of the slain. The axle underneath and the railing that ran round the car were bespattered with clots of blood, thrown up the horse's hoofs, and from the tires of the wheels, but the son of Peleus pressed on to win still further glory, and his hands were bedrabbled with gore.